Welcome to Cujo Sound. This time it's more about game audio talk. And we'll be talking about the magical and really awesome game that a lot of people haven't really heard about, but they should play it. It's 140. You cannot really spoil anything here in this game, and if you really want to be spoiler free, then maybe you should just listen to what I say and don't look at the pictures shown or the gameplay in the background. But really, it doesn't spoil anything for you. This game came out in 2013, and for the developers it was a little bit unexpected because it actually did win an IGF award for excellence in audio and an honorable mention in technical excellence. This might give you a hint about how big a masterpiece this game actually is, especially if we're looking from the sound design, audio and game programming perspective. The guys who made the game are not completely unknown fellas, especially not if you are part of the Danish industry, but we'll get to that. 140 is designed by Bjørn Jacobsen, who designs and programs the whole shebang. If you don't know who Bjørn Jacobsen is, then let's just name drop two small games that he's been working on as a game designer, and that's Limbo and Inside. You know, those two games that basically won every possible award the years they came out? Yeah, those. The graphical design is by Niels Fürst and Andreas Patterson, both veteran status in the graphical design world here, and I actually had the honor of working with Niels Fürst on one occasion and sound designing some of his work for Danmarks Radio, the national broadcast TV station here in Denmark. And last but not least comes Jacobsen, a very good friend of mine whom I spent countless of hours with being geeky about sound, design and programming. Jacob isn't unknown either, as he was the audio programmer on Inside, making him one of the top guys making sure that Inside sounds as good as it does with its massively well done implementation features. The game at its first glance may be quite simple, but actually it has a lot of depth to it, though all you control is this tiny box, the triangle when you're moving it, and you have to pick up balls and make sure you get to the finish line. It's pretty simple, right? Well, it is simple, if it wasn't for the fact that the objects moving in this platformer genius game are synced to the beat and sounds of the music. And just to make it really interesting, some of that music is 4x4, some of it is 3/4, or others is 7/8. So yeah, you actually have to listen closely to the beat of the music to play this game. You can play without sound, of course, and then it's just a pretty basic platformer where you can memorize movement patterns, but playing with sound means that you can tap the beat and know exactly when to move. Just look at this here. 140 is made in standard Unity 3 with no special gimmicks or features added. The game is controlled by the music and not the game controlling the music, which is quite interesting. The basic approach here is to play a music loop. All these loops must be exactly the same length, or at least match perfectly in terms of double, triple, or quadruple loop lengths. And you may have guessed it, they all run in 140 BPM. That's beats per minute if you aren't into that side of music production. The key to making such synchronization with the graphics is that the audio code is triggering the animations and not the graphics or the video code that is triggering the music. So all music, loops, audio sources, and so on are all started at the same time, and we'll get to that. This is because if you re-trigger loops when they're done playing, you may get out of sync with graphics because the game code and the audio code run on different threads in your CPU, meaning that this is a very different type of frame-specific synchronization and therefore it's not reliable. Like, this platform moving here moves on the first 16th note of the first beat, and then it starts moving and it waits at the end of the platform for the first 16th note of the 8th beat and then moves back. This is done by checking the audio time in the code and not the actual game time. So the code relies on two sources: audio source.time for seconds and time-specific sync, and audio source.time samples for sample-specific sync. So that moving platform from before, if you check the audio code of that playing loop, when the specific point in time is reached, it raises an event. The game element listens for this event, thus making them trigger the animation to the beat of the music, also making sure that any kind of lag is not breaking the game. So if the game measures the beat of the loops at 140 BPM and the 16th of that, then we get something like this: 140 beats per minute times 4 notes per beat, 560 divided by 60 for notes per second, which means that we get about 9.33333 note trigger points for events per second. That's more than enough for some people. But we can make it even more precise by saying that the 60 seconds divided by the 560 notes, then multiplied by the audio settings output sample rate, which is the samples per second, making it 5,143 samples per note. So the moving platform starts at time 0 and starts moving. Once it's done moving, it waits for the loop to be either 0.857 seconds, or it waits for the time sample's value to become 41,143 samples, and then it moves again. The key here is that it can be quite precise and specific in synchronization, making it possible to tweak it to perfection when it comes to game design, and making sure everything fits together with the music in the game. So to sum this up, the game elements, animation, and events are triggered by the music events. The music checks for both the music time and sample time to use this to trigger events. For beat-orientated music, loops like these should be synchronized with sample accuracy to work. This means that loops must be triggered at the exact same moment, or within a precision of 0.00002 seconds. Having one loop play and then trigger another to play is a problem, because they need to trigger within that kind of precision timing to work, to still be considered playing at the same time. And this is the problem I mentioned before, because the audio code might have a delay compared to the game code, as they run on different threads in the CPU, meaning that such accuracy is not reliable. So the setup where loop A plays, and when loop A ends, starts both loop A and loop B, or when an event occurs, triggers both A and B to play at the same time, leaves us with an inaccuracy in timing that is greater than what we can afford. And why is that? Audio in Unity 3 is rendered at a fixed number of samples at a time, and that is what is called a buffer. That's about 1,024 samples per buffer, which is the same as 21 milliseconds. Your sound card will play one buffer while it's rendering the next one. So buffers are all 1,024 samples long, and we need one every 21 milliseconds. This means that a new sound will not start instantly, but at the earliest of the next audio buffer. This buffer will be the same as the other, but this causes a 21 millisecond delay of that triggering, meaning a clear audible difference because the loops are now 21 milliseconds apart and therefore out of sync. Even if you run this through in code, an update method in your code, it will update on every frame still, meaning a 17 millisecond delay between each frame and event if the game runs at 60 FPS. The problem is, as mentioned before, they run on different threads, so these numbers are not synchronized. So video frames may be 17 milliseconds apart, but your audio buffer is 21 milliseconds apart. This means that even if we trigger in code sound B to play immediately, then immediately is simply too late. Because your sound A may end its playing during those 17 milliseconds delay, meaning that you have to wait for the next video frame to start, and then it will start to render the audio buffer, giving you an extra 21 milliseconds. So, like I said, even if it's triggered at the exact same moment as it should, then it's already too late. This makes it quite difficult to make a game like this, and the solution is as simple as starting all loops at the beginning of the game at the same time. Thus, because of the sample-accurate loop lengths, this will always be in sync. These loops can then be played but be muted, and volume can be controlled to turn loops on and off during gameplay, seemingly making them appear on beat. This muting and unmuting can of course be controlled just like any other event coming from the timing of the music as mentioned before. Another problem in Unity is the standard Doppler factor, because if these are located as 3D audio sources around the level, then moving around will morph and alter the loops, so getting this to work requires a Doppler factor of 0. Also making sure that you set your max real voices setting to the correct amount, as you may bump into issues if you have 40 sources playing sounds, but you've set your system to only allow 32 at any given point in time. And that's it for this wonderful game 140, and what became video 1 about it. As once I started making this video, I realized that it would become too long if I had to include all the stuff I picked up from it. So a second video about the game is coming, where we shall dig further into the code and see how you can create some really nice effects of the sound playing and how it works in 140. Thank you so much for watching this video about 140 and watching the Cujo Sound channel. If you really like this video, please hit the thumbs up, and if you want to know more and see more from my channel here, why not hit the subscribe button now that you're at it. You can also support me at patreon.com/Cujo Sound, where you for as little as $1 a month can help me sustain this channel. I would really appreciate it, and it helps me afford the time I take off to create the content for this channel. The more support, the more content. Once again, thank you for watching, and I'll hopefully see you in another video. Bjørn Jacobsen and Cujo Sound is signing out.